Hello, welcome back. So in this lecture we are going to be talking about mates. So what mate is a mate is this little pin over here, and what mate is mate helps you define how the relationship between all your components. So for example, this cover sits on this body, so mate helps you constrain this cover to this body. So, and the mate we are going to be covering in this lecture is pretty much just your standard mate, which is your coincident, parallel, perpendicular, tangent, and concentric. So whichever one applies to this project we are going to be covering, because for the most part these are the mates you are going to be using. And you can, how mate works is you can mate a face to face, a sketch to face, a sketch to sketch, and a feature to feature. So, and don't worry, we are going to cover everything in details. So the first thing we want to do is start making our parts together, right? So the seat, we have the seat goes into the valve and sits on that face. So the first thing we are going to do is click on this face and click on this face, because these two faces are round. When you click it, or you can either click those two faces by holding the control key and clicking mates, and SolidWorks will automatically apply the mates that meets those two features you selected. So the concentric is the one that applies to those, which means the center line for those two faces are on the same center line. So you can either click those two that way, or you can select mate, then you click this face and you click that face, and you still get the same result. So we'll click those two faces and click OK. So now it means this face is on the same center line as that, so we can move it up and down. It's fully, it's constrained to that face. We can't drag it anywhere. So the next thing we want to do is this face, and you can drag this up just to see what you are doing. So I'm gonna drag this up. So this face, and we are still in the mate option. So this face, we want to mate it to that face and click OK. So, and we can click OK, and when we section that about the right plane, and as you can see, that face is, that seat is sitting on that face, at that is concentric and is sitting on that face, and that's what you want. And you can also leave your section open while you mate your part. For the next example, let's click on the mate, and let's select this round face and select that round face, and you still get the same results. So now that we have made that, we want to mate this face to that face and click OK. So now we have our seat. Our seat is also, our disc is also constrained. So now we want to do this gasket. We'll click constrain. On the mate, we'll click that face and we'll click this face. Again, they are concentric. And now you'll click this face and that face to mate it to that top. So now we have our gasket in. So anytime you're mating something to the inside, it's best to section your part so you can select the right mate. So the next one is we want to do this spring, but the way this spring is modeled, we actually don't have, if we select this face, and let's try this. I'm not sure if this will work. See, it's only trying to make it tangent. So what we need to do is, there are several ways we can make this. We can click on the spring and click this drop down to show the sketch of that spring that has the center line, that, or another way we can do it is we can click on view, display, and no, show, and we want to show the temporary axis. Oh, that doesn't have it. So a way we can do that is let's hide that temporary axis. It's not showing the temporary axis for that spring, so we are just going to hide the temporary axis. So what we can do is mate the planes. So we would click the front plane of that spring, and we would click the front plane of our assembly and click mate. So now it mates that spring to the front plane. Then again, we want to do the same thing for the right plane. So we would click the right plane of that spring and the right plane of our assembly and click mate. So now our spring is fully centered in our assembly, which is how we want it. And now we can select this face and mate it to this face and click OK. So now our spring is fully centered. So what we did is we actually made the planes together. So, and that is what we were discussing about doing your design intent, because sometimes depending on how your part is going to build in the assembly, because the way we built this spring, our planes is on the same plane as the assembly. The planes in the model is on the same plane as the assembly, so it makes it easier for us just to mate the planes together. So the next thing, now we have all the internal parts in, we can unsection it, and that is what the assembly looks like. So now all we need to do is click this face, click mate, and click this face and click OK. So now those two faces are concentric with each other. So now what we need to do is click this face and that face to mate those two together. And we have our valve cover. Then the last thing we need to do is click this face and click that face, and again you have your concentric, and we'll click this face and that face, and it's coincident to each other. And how the parallel works is, if I click the parallel, it'll just make those two faces parallel to each other. And if I click perpendicular, perpendicular would not work because of the selection. It doesn't apply to the selection. So we're just gonna select coincident and click OK. So anyway, and once we are done, all of our parts is made. And if we section it and click OK, and as you can see, all of our parts are made in there. And that is how the mate works. And thank you. I will see you in the next lecture. Bye.